So even between Renee and I, we're sisters. We're only 2 years apart. We are very similar. We will speak at the same time and say the same things, but we need vastly different nutrition. There's so many things that can contribute to elevated, we'll just say like bad cholesterol levels, but it's not the eggs. Like I think eggs are a perfect food from nature.
We hear, oh, detox, cleanse, juice cleanse, all the different things. And yeah, like Lauren said, our body is designed to detox, but we are burdened by a lot, right? Not just our toxic food supply, but our environmental toxins are at the highest they've probably ever been on this planet.
Timing is such an issue. Like we can't fight nature. Nature has a rhythm and it has a cycle. We have the rise and fall of the sun. We have circadian rhythms. We have natural frequencies and elements from the earth that we cannot hijack.
Welcome to the Uncover Your Eyes podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Meenal Agarwal. Today's episode with the Biohacking Babes, Lauren and Renee, is all about unlocking the power of personalized health. Because when it comes to nutrition, hormones, detoxing, or even hydration, a one-size-fits-all approach rarely works. Thanks, guys, for being on today. I really appreciate your time and being able to coordinate coming together.
Thanks for having us.
3 people. Yeah.
It's where we do like 3 of us. So, I want to know a little bit more. We call you the biohacking gurus, the biohacking babes. I want to know more about nutrition. I want to say that's the biggest sort of tool we have in our toolbox for biohacking. So, where it's personalized, but where is nutrition headed and where should we be? And are there certain diets that you believe in or promote?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say it's hyper personalized. So this is what we love about biohacking. Biohacking is really taking responsibility for self and very intentionally and wisely entering into certain experiments to figure out like what works for my body, because there's so much diet dogma out there. And that probably worked for the person that created that diet. Of course, that's why they think it's like the gift to all mankind, but that doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. So even between Renee and I, we're sisters. We're only 2 years apart. We are very similar. We will speak at the same time and say the same things, but we need vastly different nutrition. And so I think in terms of like, what kind of diet do we like? It's like, well, what does my body need today? Because it may be different than what it needed yesterday or last year. And that's going to keep changing. The body's dynamic. We know this. Like our cells are always turning over. Our environment is changing. And so that's like the good news and the bad news is that we do have to keep changing. We have to keep listening. So we like to look into the toolbox, which we can get into. There's so many tools there. But the diet is like Lauren's diet and Renee's diet and Meenal's diet. Like everyone's going to have a different diet, I think.
Really? Yeah.
Anything?
So I like to think of it as the biohacking food pyramid. So not the food pyramid that most of us grew up with, right? Where we're supposed to eat all this bread and junk. So I like to think of it as a pyramid this way. So the bottom is, that's where we all start, just cutting out ultra processed foods. Like all the processed foods got to go. We need to eat whole foods. For some people, that's where they're starting, right? And then from there, then we get into the personalization of, okay, well, what does your gut microbiome need? Do you have any food intolerances, allergies, sensitivities? And then what are our hormones doing? How can we support our hormones, especially for cycling women? And then maybe we do a genetic test and we look at, well, genetically, what do we need? And then we get into ultra personalization. Maybe we put on a continuous glucose monitor. We look at how our body's reacting to different foods. It's not just about don't eat sugar, right? Certain starches or proteins or fats, things can affect all of us differently. And even stress, cold plunges, saunas, exercise, poor sleep, all of those things can affect blood sugar. So that's like the ultimate personalization. So it's really dependent on where you're starting, right? We're starting at the bottom and then working our way up to figure out what is perfect for you. And it could change, right? As we age, as our health goals change, maybe health concerns rise, being willing to adapt to potentially a different way of eating over time.
So someone who wants to start at the bottom of the pyramid or really change, take, control over their well-being, what are lab tests that I'm assuming you'd want to get their sugar checked and certain things so that you guys know like where that level of personalization is needed. what are certain lab tests that are musts for everybody for you to start, setting that nutrition plan?
I think just like a basic blood chem can be really revealing if you know how to look at it. So the doctor that's running that, if it's just your traditional GP running it, they're looking off of these traditional ranges, which are based off of, we know, a sicker population. So that's not always going to tell you what's optimal. So we can take that same lab and look at it through a functional lens, which is going to be a more like tightly and a tight and narrow lens, which some people are like, well, why are you looking for problems? It's like, we're not looking for problems. We're looking for clues and puzzle pieces that could maybe tell a story. Because our blood, again, our bodies are very dynamic. Blood does tell a story. So we don't want to just pick a snapshot in time and say, this is wrong with you. It's like, let's try to understand the narrative. So just a basic blood chem through the right lens can tell us a lot about digestion, how we're assimilating nutrients, what's maybe happening in the gut. Like we can pick up on gut inflammation, digestive dysfunction, just in a metabolic panel. So that would be like your CMP. And then your CBC, of course, is going to tell you about your immune function. So we can see your red blood cells and if you're uptaking nutrients. So people that don't absorb B vitamins or iron, we may see that. We can see need for antioxidants. There's so much we can see in just a very basic CBC, CMP, which is cool.
And what about when we look at cholesterol? How are we looking at that? The HDL, the LDLs. How are you guys analyzing that and seeing if one is high versus the other and that balance?
That's always a popular question.
That's what I struggle with. So, sometimes you're like, oh, it's good, but it's not. But then my levels look bad. And I'm like, but my levels look bad. And they're like, no, but it's okay because the other one balances the other one. I'm like, oh, gosh. So that's always, stressful.
Yeah, that can be a can of worms because your basic cholesterol panel, which would be your total, your HDL, your LDL, your triglycerides, we can get kind of a sense if we need to maybe look deeper. But, really good cholesterol panels are now going to look at the particle size, the particle number. We can look at the apolipoproteins. But I would say in general, people are pretty scared of cholesterol being over 200. And I think that's not completely accurate. I do think in general, we don't want triglycerides to be too high. That's a blood fat. We don't want LDL to be too high. So we can kind of spot check there. But I think like against traditional opinions about like, if you're over 200, you're at risk, I think needs to be challenged a little bit at this point.
I mean, my cholesterol always sits around 205. It has been for as long as I can remember. And it always gets flagged as high, red, but I think it's at a healthy range. And then also, I think not being afraid of foods because of cholesterol. Like I think people are waking up to like, okay, eggs are not the demonized food that we thought because of cholesterol. It's like if your cholesterol is high or these other numbers are out of range, well, are you inflamed? Are you inflamed from not just your diet, but everything else in your environment and your lifestyle? Or are you not eating enough fiber? Sometimes just adding in fiber can make those changes. So it's not just about what foods are high in cholesterol and how much of those you're eating. There's so much more to look at.
Yeah, I think we need to throw that away.
Egg myth. Okay, I need you to talk about the egg thing because my parents still say that to me. They're like, "Oh, why aren't you getting the egg whites?" And I'm like, "No, but you should have the whole thing." So can we debunk that today?
We need cholesterol. Our brains are made of cholesterol. Our hormones are synthesized from cholesterol. So if you deplete your cholesterol from eating processed food or from taking a statin that's driving it down, because there are a lot of cardiologists that think like lower is better, you're not going to synthesize hormones. Your brain is actually, we could go into neurodegeneration. So we need cholesterol. And so I think the myth is that like cholesterol in food causes elevated cholesterol. That's not really the case. We're looking at the overall picture. Like, are your cells toxic and inflamed? Like Renee said, do you have insulin resistance? Are you detoxing the way that we should be? Like, are we keeping up with the amount of toxins we're exposed to? Is the in out equal? Are you detoxing as much as we're exposed to things? So there's so many things that can contribute to elevated, we'll just say like bad cholesterol levels, but it's not the eggs. Like I think eggs are a perfect food from nature. Like why would nature give us something that's going to harm us would be my question.
Right. Like, I don't think nature was like, here's this perfect food, but we want you to actually cut the middle out and throw it in the trash. Like there's a synergistic effect between the egg white and the egg yolk, and especially the egg yolk that's so full of choline, which almost everyone needs more choline. I mean, it's so important for your brain. Yeah. So yeah, it doesn't make sense that nature would want you to throw that beautiful yolk out.
Yeah, no. Do you think that
Yeah.
everyone should have a glucose monitor? Like I see now it's more readily available to have a patch, monitoring your glucose. Do you think that even if your sugars are not high, like as per the blood panel that you have once a year, people should be seeing what that sugar fluctuation is throughout the day? Do you think that's beneficial?
I think everyone should wear one
Definitely.
at least once in their lifetime. Wear it for a month. A sensor lasts anywhere from 10 to 14 days, probably do 2, 3 sensors. And if are happily surprised and everything looks good, maybe that's it. But I would probably still do a spot check like every year, every few years, really depends on your risk, depends on family history. But I think also a myth, like you could have no diabetes in your family, but that doesn't mean that you are not at risk or
Mhm.
unscathed. Like because of the toxicity of our world and our food supply, like we're all at risk, really. And I think we've been given a lot of bad nutrition information, like the snacking to keep your metabolism up, which I think we're finally like chunking away at and maybe understanding a little bit better. But I just think like anyone is potentially at risk, and diabetes exists on a spectrum. You're not just healthy one day and you have diabetes the next. Like we go through pre-diabetes. Your insulin changes like perhaps 10 years before you're going to see fasting blood glucose or A1C change on a lab test. So I do think that spotting those daily fluctuations can help you optimize not just your nutrition, but your sleep habits, your lifestyle, your mindset, your stress. There's so much that can be gleaned from that 24-hour feedback monitor. So the answer is yes.
Yeah, and I think even if your blood work looks perfect, like I'm a great example of my fasting glucose, my fasting insulin, my A1C are always beautiful on my lab work. But when I wear a CGM, I have learned so much, like eating a gluten-free pizza with vegetable flatbread or something. I mean, I saw the highest blood sugar spike I've ever seen. And this is a well-marketed brand. I won't say the brand that a lot of people are eating because they think it's healthy. So that was an example. Or like, what does that glass of wine at dinner do to your blood sugar overnight when you're sleeping? That is a huge insight. What is happening to your glucose while you're sleeping? Because a lot of people are waking up at 2 or 3 a.m. and they think, oh, I just woke up because I have to go to the bathroom. No, maybe it's actually your blood sugar dropped and then your body goes into fight or flight, your cortisol raises and it wakes you up. And then you say, oh, I have to pee. But it's actually could be blood sugar. And I mean, there's so much more you could see overnight, right, Lauren?
Yeah, but in the moment when you're drinking, a lot of clients that I have wearing the CGM, they'll go, "Oh, but alcohol's good for my blood sugar because it's dropping as I drink." Well, it's like, yeah, your body is so much more concerned with dealing with the alcohol and detoxifying that than they are with dealing with the food that you're eating. So we have this counter effect where yes, it is in the moment going to drop your glucose, but as Renee said, it tends to rise overnight because it's a stressor, it's inflammatory, it does make your insulin less sensitive. So yeah, spotting those things, and also overnight oats. Haven't you had like a lot of situations with overnight
Oh,
oats, and that's like a healthy food? Everyone's like, got to eat the overnight oats because it's good for your blood
Yeah.
sugar and it's good for
yeah.
carbs. But
I got it from like I think I was in LA or something, and it was like a, organic, healthy place. They had green juices and overnight oats. I was like, I'm just going to try it. And the overnight oats was like off the charts. And
Wow.
people love their oats. They love their oats. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
so interesting to see
So,
what you spike, right? Like, see what happens.
yeah.
For me, I wasn't eating as much. Like, so I would have dinner and I would stop at like 6:30, and my sugars were spiking every morning. Like I would only check my sugars in the morning and they would be like through the roof. And I'm like, how is that possible? I didn't even eat anything and I'm so healthy, and like what's happening? So for me, it was the lack of like not eating some like little bit later and being, just spiked it in the morning. So I know that doesn't happen to a lot of people, but it's just interesting to see that. And I've never worn a glucose monitor. That's why I was asking. I've only ever checked it. I check it sometimes 3 times a day, like early morning, afternoon, and sometimes after dinner, like an hour after dinner, to see where it lands. But I've always wondered about the
Yeah.
glucose monitor. Like, the doctors always say, oh, but you don't need it because you're not in that stage. But I'm like, but can I just do it? Like, shouldn't I?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
prevention. I mean, a lot of the medical system is not worried about prevention. They're trying to keep
Yeah.
you from being sick and dying. But for prevention, yes. And so you're using the finger prick, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is great. But it's like, what if you're not catching the peak? or the low.
Exactly. And that's why I was like, I wonder what time it spikes overnight, right? To
Yeah.
be that high.
Yeah.
So it's what do you guys think of like detoxes, right? I hear so much about detoxes and I don't know, they're always coming on my Instagram feeds. But like what does that mean? And like how do you know what detox is right for you?
That's a good question. Well, we can start with like your body's
Yeah.
designed to detox. Do you want to jump in about detoxing?
But yeah, I think just in general, like a lot of the wellness trends, right? We hear, oh, detox cleanse, juice cleanse, all the different things. And yeah, like Lauren said, our body is designed to detox, but we are burdened by a lot, right? Not just our toxic food supply, but our environmental toxins are at the highest they've probably ever been on this planet. So I do think we want to support that. But number one is just cutting out like inflammatory foods, right? That's going to help your body naturally detox. Maybe you want to get more specific. Maybe you do like a heavy metal test or a hair tissue mineral analysis. You can look at something more specific to see, do I need to detox, mercury or now people are talking a lot about all the plastics, the microplastics that are in our blood supply. Now, should we be focusing on detoxing that? So I do think we can benefit from doing a specific detox, but it has to be a personalized approach, not just let me go grab 12 green juices from down the street and do nothing but green juices for 5 days. Yeah. So I think we need to be very nuanced with our supplements. I wouldn't just like buy something off of Instagram or TikTok that says, oh, this will detox your liver today. I would say work with a practitioner to be careful about that. But also with detox, I think of like, maybe we need to detox from our phone, from social media, from toxic relationships. There's a lot of other stuff that we need to eliminate to support our body's natural healing ability.
I love
There's
that. Oh
this
my God.
spiritual, emotional connection to our organs. I think that's huge. I would say I see like two major issues potentially with detox. One, that people are not looking at their current detox capacity or their drainage pathways. So maybe they'll start a detox program, but they'll ignore the organs that are really doing the heavy burden. So you could just start pushing detox, which is a stressor, and your detox pathways can't keep up. And so that's going to make you feel really lousy and potentially backfire. So that's a big problem. The other problem is like if your cells are really inflamed and toxic, your cell membrane gets really rigid. And when the cell membrane is rigid, and that's from toxins, stress, from, processed food, seed oils, we create this cell where you're not getting nutrients in and you're not getting toxins out. So you could start pushing detox, the stressor, but that cell is like, we're not going anywhere because the membrane is so rigid. So improving your cellular health, your cellular membranes, I think is a very crucial step to starting that detox. So I think we always have to start with the foundation, sort of like going back to the pyramid. It's like, are we cutting out the processed food? Can we look at our beauty care, body care, things that we're putting on our skin? We could actually just enhance detox capacity just by removing a lot of inputs, the stressors, the digital stuff, the body lotions, the makeup, the perfume, all that stuff. And then once we've done that, then it's like, let's get the cell healthy. Let's get our drainage pathways moving. So making sure people are moving, getting their lymph moving. Maybe that's dry brushing, castor oil, making sure the liver is supported with some nutrients. And then we can apply the stressor that is detox. Detox is stressful. And it's meant to be. It's a signal that's designed to create a stressor so your body responds. But a lot of people go into detox not ready for that.
And pooping and sweating.
Oh, yeah. That too. Yeah. How do you know your cells are in that state, like in a stress state?
Yeah. To this date, I don't know if there is a cellular membrane test. I'm sure at some point there will be. I think we just like look at the environment and we assume if you've had these toxic exposures and maybe you haven't eaten well your whole life or lived a healthy lifestyle, we can assume that. I would just assume because of the state of our world that most people are going to probably need a little bit of support. So if you're not doing like omegas, phospholipids, if you're not actively supporting your detox pathways, I think it's like not harmful to assume that your cell membranes could use a little support.
There is one test that's becoming a little more popular. I'm seeing people are doing around detoxes, the Me screen, which is looking at mitochondrial health. That might be the closest thing to like what you said with testing the cell, because I'm hearing like people that are doing a lot of like blood filtering, they're doing ozone, they're actually seeing their mitochondrial function improve on the Me screen. So if you wanted to do like a before and after, that may be one of the best tests. But like Lauren said, if you want to save your money, you could probably just assume your cells need help because you live on planet Earth. Yeah.
Renee, what did you mean when you said our bodies are designed to detox?
Well, we have these natural things, right? We have our liver, our kidneys, through the colon, right? Through pooping, sweating. We're designed to be able to process things, but I don't think, we've evolved enough to be able to detox all of the environmental toxins we're exposed to today, right? Even the last 100 years, the number of chemicals that have risen, it's absurd. So I do think we need the extra support there. But also, like I was saying, with like pooping and sweating, if you're not pooping and sweating every day, you probably are not ready for a detox.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes detoxing people actually get more constipated, right? Maybe you're like, oh, I'm taking a binder, which is helpful to bind to the toxins and get them out. But if you're not pooping, it's just going to back up into your system and you could feel pretty bad.
Yeah. Our ancestors didn't have to buy detox programs or supplements, right? Like their bodies naturally detox. We do naturally detox. It's just, as Renee said, there's a backup. So we think it's actually better to upregulate our body's ability to detox than to force detox upon the body. Can we support what our body is naturally designed to do rather than apply this stressor that maybe the body's not ready for? It's not the right timing or the right way. How do we just enhance the body's natural abilities? That's like, I think that should always be the goal in any health endeavor.
I hear a lot about, kind of related to detox, but not really, red light therapy. And, I know we talk about it for the eyes, but let's talk about it for the body. Like, how effective is it? And why are we constantly seeing it? And do you feel the sunlight is enough?
Ooh, it is everywhere. I even have a toothbrush with red light on it now. It's
Oh,
great.
I didn't know there was such a thing. Okay.
Oh, they're putting red light everywhere, in the nose and the mouth and everywhere.
Yeah, I have the face mask. I have an intraoral appliance. I have a localized one. I have a wrap one. I have a full body panel.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like if we lived outdoors more and were more active and didn't have digital devices, the EMFs and air pollution, the sun would be enough. But again, it's like, are our bodies keeping up with all of these inputs? Probably not. And that's like the cool thing about tech. And we don't want to default to the tech, but the tech can really get us over a hump, or it can help us in certain situations where we do need a little bit more help support. So for example, like an injury, our ancestors didn't sprain their ankles. They weren't playing competitive sports or dancing on Broadway stages. And so I think the tech can really help in those acute situations. But I think we always have to default back to, can we get outside a little bit more? Can we see the sunrise? Can we get blue light in our eyes? And then protect from a UV perspective, of course. But no, I do think these tech devices are helpful for acute situations. It's just we don't want to rely on them for doing the work that nature should be doing.
So do you think people should be purchasing all this stuff? Like you were saying, you have it in your toothbrush, you have a face mask, you have a body. Like, are those acute situations, or is this something people should be, 40 plus, I want to say, regularly doing?
I wouldn't expect anyone to buy like as many things as we have. Like, we're biohackers. We've been doing this a long time and we love it. But
we try things so we can share with people like what we think works. Yeah, again, we don't expect people to buy it.
Yeah, but I think if you have a knee injury that's really bugging you, okay, maybe you just get a small localized red light, or like a diesel torch, which looks like a flashlight, which you can shine on injuries. Or maybe you're more into the beauty side. You invest in a red light face mask. For me, I've had several dental surgeries this year from an accident I was in, and I bought an intraoral red light device. If you didn't have some kind of dental thing, I wouldn't say you need to be wearing that, So it's got to be a very personalized thing. And in an ideal world as well, we would all be getting outside for sunrise and sunset. But like, I know I'm not doing that every day. And I don't think we can get enough from that.
And how is it actually working? So what is, it's decreasing inflammation. What is the pathway? What is it doing?
Yeah, so the sun is a very powerful signal for mitochondria. It's the powerhouse of the cell. And so one of our favorite red light companies, the founder who we really love, Scott Kennedy, he always says like, red light does one thing. It just supports the mitochondria. It helps the mitochondria to work better. So if your mitochondria are healthier, we're producing ATP energy, which means we have more resilience. We have more capacity to be able to detox and to recover and to create our own energy and to sleep. So we're really just enhancing the power of mitochondria, which if, our ancestors that had sunlight all day long, they just like naturally did that. So again, this is like one of those things that it's helping the body to do what it naturally does just a little bit better. But you can certainly overdo it. Like there's like a biphasic response or sometimes like a bell curve. You can overdo that. It's still a signal. So we want to use it intelligently and know like distance and timing and make sure the bulbs are healthy. So yeah, again, just to come back, like let's get outside. But right now I have an ankle injury. So I think red light is great. For Renee, the oral surgery, that is great. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what about like supplements? So I know it was funny. I saw some crazy stat out there that like 20 years ago we had like just a couple thousand of supplements and now it's like hundreds of thousands of supplements. So what is like, I mean, I don't even know what to take. It's so bad that I just don't take anything because I'm like, there's too many and I don't know what to take, right? Unless you're low in iron, then okay, you'll take an iron supplement. But like if everything is okay and you don't really like, what is the standard thing that people should be looking at? For example, vitamin D or magnesium. Like what's the standard thing that, and I want to kind of segregate it into women and men because I know, with women and their hormonal shifts over 40, what are common supplements that people should be looking into on a personalized approach?
Yeah. I mean, I think just basic, I think pretty much everyone would benefit from like a multivitamin, right? Our food supply is just very deficient. Our soil's depleted. We're just not getting the basics. Like a multivitamin and then some kind of trace minerals, something like a beam minerals or upgraded formulas.
Body bio.
Something, yeah, some like the basics. But we're actually seeing a problem now where people are taking too many supplements and we don't know how they're interacting with each other. These people are not doing lab testing, and they actually could be doing more harm than good. And you're wasting money. So I think the basics, and then if you want to layer on, you got to do some lab testing, even if it's just the basic blood work you're getting from your physician every year, or maybe you're doing hormone testing, stool testing, gut microbiome, genetic testing to kind of up level. But I do think we need to start being more cautious with grabbing supplements. And then what's your health goal? Like for me, as a biohacker right now, I'm really working on reducing my biological age. I did a before test. I'm going to do an after test. So I have a pretty strict like longevity supplement routine. I'm trying just to test, but it's going to be different for everyone and what you're looking for right now. Like you said, hormones, is that your main issue? You should be doing hormone testing and working with a practitioner. Whether you can do that with just supplements and diet and lifestyle, or maybe you even need bioidentical hormones, that's going to be a personal decision. Yeah.
Yeah. I think as Renee said, like minerals and probably a multivitamin for most people. And that's, we can look at the basic blood work and also see, do you need more minerals? You can test magnesium, which most people need more of because it's depleted from the soil. For Renee and I, we tend to run a little bit more anemic. So iron is a little bit lower, but we don't just take iron supplements because we got to step back and look at like, what is the body trying to tell us? What is the story? Because we eat red meat, we intake a lot of iron. So iron's not the problem, but what is happening in the red blood cell that we're not able to actually retain those iron stores? So making sure we have the B vitamin cofactors and perhaps the zinc and enough vitamin C. So I think it is really important to not only pay attention to how you feel, but if you don't feel something, that's when we go to the lab test or like a biological age test. Like Renee, you're testing Mimeo right now.
Yes.
So Mimeo is a fasting mimetic. You're getting the benefits of fasting, which we know is great for longevity. Not necessarily going to feel that, but we can take it for an acute period of time, retest, and if it helps, and that's your goal to really work on longevity, then why not keep taking that? But I think less is more. And in my work with clients, we kind of make a list, like what's going to be acute, what are we trying to get off of once we've accomplished the goal? And then what are like some basic things that you don't mind continuing to take, like minerals, B vitamins, things like
maybe
that. Creatine, I think phospholipids or omegas, again, which are really good for the cell membrane. Things like acetylcholine, phosphatidylcholine, which is really helpful because we have a genetic risk for Alzheimer's. So that could be looking into genetic risk as well, but hyper personalized. But I would say I think everyone should take minerals. That's a really good place to start.
Excellent. What do you think about intermittent fasting? So that's a, big fad. A lot of people still do it. Like Lauren's like, I
Yeah.
do it. Lauren's very excited about that. But I mean, even when I go to the office, I'm like, hey guys, like what's good? No, nobody's eating in the morning. I'm like, oh my God. Some of them will be like, no, we can't have lunch now. We have to wait till 1 o'clock because that's our time. I'm like, oh God, I'm the only one eating. So I just, I want to know a little bit more about it. I used to intermittently fast, and unfortunately it didn't do well for my sugar because it was it was quite high in the morning, and so I had to eat. So for me, I was blindly doing intermittent fasting because that was just the fad and everybody was doing it. And I was like, great, maybe I'll lose weight like everybody else. And it was not working and I was not losing weight. And so for me, it didn't work. And I know it's personalized, but what is your take on it? Like, is it working for people? And in what scenarios should people maybe look into it?
I think the idea of it is great. We've done it wrong in a lot of cases, particularly for women. So the benefits are that we condense the feeding window so that we get the rest and repair. Like our body's not recovering if there's food coming in, right? Our digestion's turned on, we're releasing insulin. We need to stop getting inputs. And so the body has time, quiet, stillness to go and repair all of the mechanisms. So the idea behind the restriction, condensing the window is great, but we're not looking at timing and circadian rhythm. And so for, everyone, but particularly females, if we're missing that really like critical metabolic window when the sun is rising in the sky, when we can we're very insulin sensitive, which is a good thing. Our cortisol is going up. That's a great time to intake nutrients. And people are flipping it where they're, as you said, not eating until 1, which I think cascades into the evening. They're probably eating a larger dinner. I bet you those people are also snacking after dinner, perhaps. We need to flip it around. I think it's actually better if you're going to do intermittent fasting, maybe consider like skipping dinner or eating a very early dinner, but probably not don't eat breakfast, don't eat lunch, and just fast as long as you can. I do think like an extended fast going 24, 36, depending on where you are in your menstrual cycle, male, female, can be really helpful because also it's a good reset. That's not a daily thing. You're not going to do that all the time. So yes to intermittent fasting, but I just think my preference is let's get people to eat in the morning. Make sure you're getting your protein. Make sure you're capitalizing on that circadian rhythm and not pushing all of your calories and nutrients to the end of the day when you're not as insulin sensitive and you're trying to wind down and go to sleep. So it's a timing thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, we should be eating when the sun's up. Absolutely. And I think there's also some confusion around like the term intermittent fasting. Like I think all of us should not eat for 12 hours overnight.
Yeah.
Like that's basic. And there's an argument. Some people are like, "Oh, that's fasting." Other people are like, "No, that's just not eating when the sun is not up."
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, Renee. Like, I'm like, well, why can't we just call it not eating, like when you're not supposed to eat?
Supposed to eat, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, the average person, if you're not paying attention, like people are eating like 12 times a day, which is crazy. So their blood sugar, if they put a CGM on, you probably see their blood sugar is just elevated. Like there's no rest. You need to stop eating so everything can cool off. So yes, I think if that is encouraging to you to stop snacking or just to pay attention to your eating windows, great as a kickstart. But then we got to really optimize for timing, especially for women. I think it can be very detrimental for women, especially of a cycling age, to not be eating breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
Yeah. And then having coffee. I see that too with women. They're like, "Oh, I'm not having breakfast. I'm just having my coffee." That can be pretty damaging to your hormones because you're waking up and you're getting right into that stressful state. Your cortisol is already naturally rising, and then you're not getting the nutrition at the same time. You can only do that for so long, and then you will probably burn out. Yeah.
I want to talk about cortisol. I'm glad you brought that up. So tell me about cortisol. So, I mean, we know it's our stress hormone. Like, what is the happy balance and how can people, I mean, when you're stressed, but how do you know when your cortisol is out of whack?
So, yeah, I think cortisol has been demonized, but like you said, we need cortisol. We have this natural rise of cortisol in the morning, and then it naturally comes down at night. Melatonin rises, we fall asleep, and then we do it all again the next day. But with cortisol, I feel like so many people are like, "Oh, you need to meditate or you need to take this supplement for high cortisol. You could have low cortisol. I've actually had that happen several times where I have low cortisol, which is a different problem. So I think testing is really helpful. I really like the Dutch test. It's looking at all your hormones. It's dried urine, also saliva, but that's going to give you your full cortisol panel for the day, including your cortisol awakening response. So you test first thing when you wake up and then 30 minutes later to see, are we getting that rise and then that natural decline? So I think testing can be really good here. Certainly, even if you feel stressed, it's not always just cortisol. I think there's so much more going on, which I don't know. I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole of like what to do if you feel stressed, but yeah, we need cortisol to, be on a podcast. I'm sure the three of us, we got cortisol going, our brain's functioning. It's early in the morning here. Or if you're at a workout, you might have higher cortisol, or if you're in the sauna or cold plunge, cortisol is not to be demonized. It's just what time of day and what your personal cortisol cycle looks like.
Yeah, cortisol is anti-inflammatory. We definitely don't want to kill it. We want it. And I hear that too. People are like, what do I do for my cortisol? I'm like, what about your cortisol? We don't want to just squash it. And I do love the Dutch test as well, because we could have certain points of the day where your cortisol may be high and then maybe it drops. We want a rhythm. There's like a very predictable and expected rise and fall. And so if you fall outside of those parameters, imagine like a roller coaster. We don't want it to be too far off of that path. So you could have a specific time of day that we do need to support your low cortisol, or a specific time of day we need to support your high cortisol. And it's not just the cortisol. It's like, what's driving that? Is there a food insensitivity? Is there a toxin in your environment? Or is there an emotional stressor that you always interact with at 11 a.m. at work? Like, we got to look at the whole picture. It's not just, as Renee said, I feel stressed, my cortisol must be high. That I find that's almost rarely the full picture or answer.
What can you do about it? What can you do? Like, if your cortisol is not following that roller coaster pattern, are there supplements for this? Or, if it's too low, or are there, are you talking just environmental factors? Remove that person that stresses you out at 11 o'clock. Like, what are we doing about it?
I would look at blood sugar first and foremost. There's so many nuances here, which is why we want to test and find out the particulars for the person and the time of day. But I could just give you an example. Something like a licorice extract can be very preserving for cortisol. So if you're across the board, like a low cortisol or maybe just low cortisol in the morning, we can take licorice, which is going to preserve the little amount that you are making and help kind of naturally boost that. But sunlight in the morning actually helps get that cortisol awakening response going. There are things we can put in to help that cortisol if it's low, or there's adaptogens that help to lower it if it's too high. But personal, I would test blood sugar. I would look at the nervous system, because if you have poor nervous system regulation, like, you just don't deal with stress. Like, we all have stress, right? But some people kind of get locked and loaded into that stress and they can't get out of it. There's no supplement that's going to get you out of that. Like, we got to look at the vagus nerve, and we got to look at breathing, and we got to, hopefully remedy the situation as best as possible. And there's that can be a can of worms. It's like, do we need to do talk therapy, or maybe, I don't know, plant medicine, or do we just need to do Epsom salt baths at night and meditation? There's sort of like a big toolbox depending on what's happening.
What do you think are some of the most common, like, I'm going to generalize this because I feel like I would probably make 100 mistakes, but the most common mistakes, or I don't want to call them mistakes, but things where you feel like, oh, people should be, looking at a little more, I'm going to call it a mistake.
I would have said intermittent fasting if you hadn't asked about
it. Yeah. I think overlooking sleep is still a mistake. So a good night's sleep, I think, should be everyone's priority, because I find that ripples into everything else in your life. We have a better mood. Now we have the energy to go to the gym, to the grocery store, cook our meals. It just kind of ripples that way. And we are definitely seeing a movement away from of not prioritizing sleep. But a big mistake is I have to wake up at 5 a.m. to get my workout in, so I'm going to skip that last hour of sleep. I would question if maybe that extra hour of sleep and then maybe some movement snacks throughout the day is better than that 6 a.m. spin class, or, fill in the blank. So yeah, sleep I think is number one. And now that we have all these sleep trackers, we can really gain insight into what's actually happening to your body. Are you actually sleeping well?
Yeah.
Thanks for making me feel good about not working out in the morning.
We're
told me not to.
We are team sleep
Yeah.
over exercise here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always feel bad, so thank you for that.
Oh, good. Okay. Happy to help.
And what about hydration? Like,
Yeah.
do you feel that people underestimate the power? Like, I mean, for us, I see obviously, I'm an eye doctor, so I see a lot of kids who get headaches. That's the number one thing they'll say, go have an eye exam. And the first question I always ask them, especially with kids, is lack of hydration, because that can be a big trigger for headaches, migraines. So what do you feel about hydration? Are we either over talking about hydration, or are we not considering it important enough?
I think we're not talking about quality of hydration enough. It's not just drink more water. Because, like, I have plenty of clients, they're like, I drink water all day long and I still feel thirsty and dry and I'm peeing a ton. It's like, okay, well, your cells are probably not uptaking that. If you're like just peeing constantly, then you're losing your hydration. So it comes back to minerals. Like, what quality water are you drinking? If you're drinking tap water, get it tested, because there's a lot of heavy metals and toxins in your water. So we do want to be purifying and filtering our water, but we could over filter our water and then we don't have any electrical charge, which is the minerals. Like, ideally, we're supposed to be drinking spring water, like runoff from mountains that collects natural minerals, but that's very hard to find. I mean, there's like a website where you can find a natural spring near you, but like, who has time to go take the jug and fill it up? Like, that's an effort that I don't do.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure we're getting the minerals back in, or a lot of people are supplementing with electrolytes, but these are just like sugary powders that have artificial crap in them. And a lot of times the electrolyte molecules are too big to even get into your cells. So is it actually crossing into the cell and actually hydrating your cells? The question is, are your cells hydrated? And just drinking a crap ton of water all day long does not guarantee that you're hydrated. So I think it's nuance, as everything is, but like, what is the quality of your water? Are you drinking a lot out of plastic? Are you drinking tap water? Are you really stressed? You probably do need more water and more electrolytes, because stress burns through electrolytes pretty quickly. And if you're relying on the, fruit punch flavored electrolytes,
But what is the other form? Like, where are people going to be able to get the electrolytes from?
yeah, I think so. Renee mentioned, I think anything that's like a liquid, so they're not the tastiest. So that's, you got to figure out where on the spectrum your preference is. But minerals kind of have like a saltiness, sort of like ocean water. So the liquid minerals, like a trace minerals, Body Bio, upgraded formulas, they all make liquid formulas. I don't
think Beam minerals just taste like water to me.
Oh,
I don't
Beam?
think it
Yeah.
tastes bad. Yeah.
You might be adapted to it. I would give it to the average person on the street and ask them that. I don't know.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
I'll try it and let you guys know.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easy because you just pour it in a shot glass and take it once a day.
Yeah.
And then you're getting, it's like 70 plus trace minerals in there. I mean, you're not going to get that in, like a Gatorade or a Noon tablet. So
yeah.
So is that something people should be taking daily? Like
yes.
a supplement, but is that the minerals we're talking about? Really, just getting it from that?
Yeah.
I think that's a safe thing for everyone to take every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're not getting it in our diet. There's just, you can have the perfect local, organic, pasture raised, all the things, and you're not going to get all the minerals, sadly. So it's nice there are products like Beam Minerals that will help with that.
I love that. Is there anything before we go that you guys would love to leave our audience with? A thought of self-advocacy and, what they could do better for their health?
A thought I had when you asked about mistakes that people are making, because I have like a lot of health pet peeves, but I think globally what connects a lot of those things is timing errors. And that applies to the intermittent fasting that we talked about, or it applies to sleep. Like, a lot of people are arguing, well, I'm getting 8 hours, but is it from 2 a.m. to whatever? Timing is such an issue. Like, we can't fight nature. Nature has a rhythm and it has a cycle. We have the rise and fall of the sun. We have circadian rhythms. We have natural frequencies and elements from the earth that we cannot hijack. our bodies are deeply connected to them. And the more we get out of rhythm with that, the more we have dis-ease. And so I think like a lot of the diet dogma or fitness dogma or supplement dogma is like everyone's kind of onto something, but we're not talking about the timing.
Right.
So I would just like, this may be like a thought and a meditation for people. Like, what am I doing that I think could be healthy, but is there a more optimal timing? Is there more optimal timing for my exercise, for my sleep, for my fasting, for my cold exposure? Consider the timing. I know that's a big topic and it does take some time to unpack, but we could be getting a lot of things almost right if we just optimize the timing to be more in sync with nature.
I love that.
Yeah.
My take home was eat the eggs, and I'm going to make sure my parents are listening to this episode.
Eat the whole egg.
Eat the whole egg and get your glucose patch, right?
Yeah.
I get so sad when people throw out the yolk. I'm like, can I have it? Don't put it in the trash.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Can you tell our audience, our listeners, where they can find you and your podcast?
Yeah, podcast is the Biohacker Babes. We release an episode every Monday on all the platforms. We're also pretty active on Instagram, biohacker_babes. Connect with us there. Send us a message. We have great guests like you. You were just on, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? Yeah. Pretty recent. Yeah. It was a fabulous episode. So yeah, would love to hear from people and connect.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in. If you want to catch more episodes of Uncover Your Eyes, make sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. To learn more about me, follow me on Instagram at dr.Meenal Agarwal. Until next time, keep those eyes uncovered.